Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. This time we're going to kind of go beyond, those typical nature documentaries.
Okay.
We're going to be looking at animal mating rituals, but with a twist. We're going to be looking at the power of female choice in evolution. And, it's interesting because we're going to see that females are a lot more strategic than we often give them credit for.
Absolutely. And, we often think of males being the ones that are, the dominant players in this mating game. But really, it's the females who are often calling the shots.
So to really dig into this, we're going to be looking at excerpts from a book called Bitch on the female of the species.
Okay.
And to kind of kick things off, let's talk about the sage grouse.
Okay.
And their, we'll just say, interesting mating dance.
So sage grouse do their mating rituals in an arena called a leek.
Oh, interesting.
And basically what it is a big open space where all the males gather and try to attract females.
So if I'm picturing this correctly, it's just like a bunch of male birds in this big open field, all trying to, outdo each other with their moves.
And their moves are pretty wild. So they have these throat sacs that look like giant balloons that kind of wobble around. And they expose these olive green patches of skin.
Oh, wow.
And then they slap these air sacs together to make this really loud doink sound.
Wait, so they're basically beatboxing?
Yeah.
To attract the mate? That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's pretty funny to watch.
But in terms of evolutionary advantage, what is the advantage of that?
Yeah, so that's where female choice comes in.
Yeah, okay.
All this strutting and doinking isn't about the males, fighting each other for dominance.
Right.
It's about impressing the females who get to choose their mates based on these performances.
Okay.
And actually, this whole idea of females driving evolution through their choices wasn't always a widely accepted idea.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Now, why is that? Why was that so controversial?
So Charles Darwin actually first proposed this idea as part of his theory of sexual selection. But he was working in the Victorian era, and the idea of females having that much power just didn't sit well with a lot of people at the time. Plus, back then, there wasn't a clear adaptive explanation for why females would choose certain traits over others.
So it's like it was challenging the societal norms of the time.
Yeah.
But thankfully, the scientific community has come around. Right?
Definitely. So as our understanding of evolution has grown, and also as feminism helped bring female choice back into the spotlight, it's now a major area of research.
Awesome. Okay, so going back to our beatboxing sage grouse.
Yes.
These licks that they're performing in these are essentially like...
Yeah, they're like high-stakes mating marketplaces.
High-stakes mating marketplaces.
Yeah.
Where just a few dominant males end up with most of the matings.
Wow.
So female choice is even more crucial in that scenario. So it's like winner takes all.
It is.
Are there any, sage grouse celebrities that we should know about?
Yeah, there is actually a sage grouse. Researchers have documented him.
Oh, wow.
His name is Dick.
Okay.
And he was incredibly dominant.
Oh, yeah.
He had a record-breaking mating season.
Okay.
He had 137 matings.
Oh, my goodness.
With 23 of those matings happening consecutively in just 23 minutes.
That's incredible. So 137 matings.
Yeah.
What kind of implications does that have on the gene pool?
That's a really important question. And while, Dick might have seemed like a super grouse, research by a scientist named Gail Patricelli has shown that there's more to mating success than just stamina and energy.
Interesting. Okay, so tell me more about Gail's work.
Yeah.
How did she study these mating dynamics?
So she uses a really innovative approach. She created a robot female sage grouse.
What?
Nicknamed a fembot.
A robot bird. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so she can basically manipulate this fembot to see how the males react.
So she can kind of control for specific cues and see how the males respond without the chaos of a real leak.
So this must have provided some really interesting insights.
It did.
What did she discover about what makes certain males successful?
So one of the key things she discovered is that male sage grouse actually adjust the intensity of their display based on how close the female is.
So they're not just mindlessly strutting around,
exactly.
zoinking. They're actually paying attention.
We're paying attention to the female's cues and responding accordingly.
So it's not just about being flashy.
Right.
It's about being attentive
and responsive,
which kind of suggests that there's some level of social intelligence.
Yeah, there's some social intelligence at play, for sure.
Wow, so social skills matter even for birds.
It's true.
What does that tell us about the evolution of intelligence in general?
That's a really interesting question. And actually, the sage grouse is not the only species that shows this kind of social intelligence. Another lekking species, the satin bowerbird, takes it to a whole new level.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What do the bowerbirds do that's so special?
So male satin bowerbirds build these really elaborate structures called bowers out of sticks, and then they decorate them with blue trinkets.
Wait, blue trinkets?
Yeah.
Like what is...
Like bottle caps, pieces of glass, anything blue that they can find.
Why blue?
That's a great question. And that's one of the enduring mysteries of female choice.
Yeah.
But here's the really intriguing part. Young male bowerbirds actually spend years impersonating females.
They cross-dress.
They do. They pretend to be females.
Why would they do that?
So it's thought that they do this to learn courtship tactics from the female's perspective.
It's like they're going undercover.
Yeah, exactly.
To try to crack the code of female preference.
Right. And by pretending to be females, they might be able to gain some valuable insight into what females are looking for in a mate. Which displays are most effective? Which decorations are most appealing? How to best respond to the female signals.
So it suggests that female choice might actually be shaping
the
brains and cognitive abilities of males in some species, driving them to develop more complex social strategies.
Exactly.
That's incredible. So even in the animal kingdom, understanding the female perspective can be key to success.
Right.
But we still have that question of
too.
Why do females have these specific preferences?
Yeah.
What's so special about blue trinkets or olive green chests?
Right. So this is a question that has baffled scientists for a long time.
Okay.
One idea is something called the sensory bias hypothesis.
Okay.
And this suggests that males might be exploiting these pre-existing preferences in females. So basically, think about it this way. If a female is naturally drawn to a certain color because it's associated with something important for survival, like, a nutritious fruit.
Like those guppies who are attracted to orange because of their preference for orange fruit.
Exactly, yeah. So a male who has that same color might have an advantage in attracting her attention.
So could that be happening with...
It could be.
Like the sage grouse?
Yeah.
Or the bowerbirds?
It's definitely a possibility. So the sage grouse's olive green chest... or its beatboxing sounds might be tapping into some pre-existing sensory bias in the females.
So even seemingly arbitrary preferences might have roots in deeper evolutionary pressures.
Exactly.
But I have a feeling there's more to the story than that.
There is, yeah. And female choice isn't always as straightforward as it seems. So take, for example, the tungura frog. They actually become less choosy as the night goes on.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So early on, they're really picky about their mates. But as time starts to run out, they're willing to settle for a little bit less.
So even in the frog world,
it's true.
Desperation can set in. But I thought our sage grouse friends were all about carefully selecting the best mate.
You would think so. However, female sage grouse are surprisingly promiscuous.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, tell me more.
So I think we're going to have to save that for part 2 of our deep dive. So stay tuned.
All right, I'm hooked. We'll be back soon. Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of animal mating and the surprising power of female choice. Now, we ended part 1 on kind of a cliffhanger with this revelation that female sage grouse are actually quite promiscuous.
And it's interesting because this isn't just some strange anomaly or anything. This is actually a widespread phenomenon in the animal kingdom. That kind of challenges a lot of our assumptions about mating behavior.
Yeah, okay. So I'm ready to have my assumptions challenged. But before we get into that, I want to kind of circle back to that question about, what drives female preference. We touched on this idea of sensory bias. But are there other explanations for why females might choose certain traits over others?
Absolutely. So while the sensory bias idea is compelling, it doesn't explain everything. Another interesting hypothesis is that some female preferences might be linked to indicators of good genes.
Good genes. So it's not just about aesthetics or some kind of sensory trick. It's about choosing a mate who will pass on desirable traits to their offspring.
Yes. So think about those, brightly colored male birds.
Okay.
Often those vibrant colors can be a sign of a strong immune system.
Oh, okay.
Or resistance to parasites.
So a female who chooses a brightly colored mate might be unconsciously selected for offspring who are going to be healthier.
Exactly.
And more likely to survive.
Yeah, it's like a natural quality control mechanism to make sure that the best genes are being passed down.
That makes a lot of sense. But I have to wonder, how do scientists actually study these things?
Yeah, it's a challenge.
It's not like we can just ask the animals what they're thinking, right?
Right, exactly. So they have to be pretty creative.
Right.
They use a combination of field observations and experiments and genetic analysis to piece together this whole puzzle of animal mating behavior.
And speaking of puzzles, let's talk about that female promiscuity that we mentioned.
Okay, yeah.
Why would a female mate with multiple males? Doesn't that seem kind of counterintuitive?
It does.
If the goal is to pass on the best genes.
It might seem counterintuitive at first.
Okay.
But there are a few potential advantages to multiple mating.
Okay.
One possibility is that it increases the genetic diversity of her offspring.
So by mating with a variety of males,
right,
she's kind of hedging her bets and ensuring that...
Yeah, that's one way to think about it.
At least some of her offspring will inherit a mix of traits.
Exactly.
That will help them thrive.
It's like diversifying your investment portfolio. You're spreading the risks.
Right.
Increasing the chances of a good return.
Okay.
In this case, healthy offspring.
But doesn't that create a lot of uncertainty for the males?
It does, yeah.
If a female is mating with multiple partners, how does a male know that he's the father?
Yeah, and that brings us to another fascinating aspect of this whole mating game, which is sperm competition.
Sperm competition. Okay, now we're getting into some interesting territory.
It might sound strange, but in species where females mate with multiple males, there's actually a competition going on at the microscopic level.
Really?
The sperm from different males are all vying to fertilize the female's eggs.
Wow, so even after a female chooses a mate, the competition is not over.
It's not, no. The male sperm are still battling it out.
Okay.
And that has actually led to some really amazing evolutionary adaptations. Some males have evolved larger tests to produce more sperm, which increases their chances of winning the competition.
Yeah.
Others have developed really specialized sperm shapes or chemicals that can actually incapacitate rival sperm.
Like a microscopic battle royale.
It is.
Happening inside the female's reproductive tract. It's amazing.
Yeah. It's pretty incredible.
What other strategies do males use to increase their odds?
It really does add another layer of complexity to this whole idea of female choice. It's not just about choosing who to mate with.
Right.
But also... whose sperm ultimately gets to be the winner.
This is also mind-blowing. It seems like the more we learn about animal mating, the more intricate
it is,
and fascinating it becomes. And we often hear about, males being the dominant players.
Right.
But really, it seems like females are kind of quietly orchestrating so much of what's happening.
Female choice is this incredibly powerful force that's shaping the evolution of male traits. From physical appearance to behavior... and even cognitive skills.
It's incredible to think about the influence females have had on the course of evolution. Yeah. But I'm curious, are there any examples of this sperm competition or these strange adaptations in our sage grouse friends?
That's a great question. And that's an area where, researchers are still learning new things all the time.
Okay.
There is some evidence to suggest that male sage grouse might actually adjust their sperm production based on the level of competition on the leak.
So if there's a lot of other males vying for females, they'll ramp up their sperm production.
Yeah.
That's amazing. It's like they're sizing up the competition and planning accordingly.
It's like an arms race, but at a microscopic level.
It all ties back to this idea that, females are driving these evolutionary changes. Their mating choices.
Yeah.
Even at the level of sperm selection are shaping the traits of future generations.
It highlights just how much power females have in this whole evolutionary process, influencing everything from the physical traits we can see to these microscopic battles that are happening beyond our view.
So it makes you wonder if these same dynamics are at play in our own species.
It does.
I mean, we're animals too, right?
That's right. Yeah. And that's a question that has really intrigued scientists for a long time. And there is some evidence to suggest that, certain aspects of human mating behavior, like, our attraction to certain physical traits might have evolutionary roots.
So like those guppies who are attracted to orange because of their preference for orange fruit.
Exactly.
Humans might also have certain preferences that are shaped by our evolutionary history.
It's certainly a possibility, but it's important to remember that humans are incredibly complex.
Right.
And our mating behaviors are influenced by so many factors. You have culture, you have social norms.
Right. It's not as simple as just saying.
It's not, no.
Well, men are attracted to this and women are attracted to that
exactly.
because of some, action evolutionary imperative.
It's not that simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's much more complex than that.
So while we might share some basic biological predispositions with other animals, our mating behaviors are ultimately shaped by a complex interplay of nature and nurture.
Exactly.
And that makes us all the more fascinating.
It does.
So this has been an incredible journey.
It has.
But I feel like we're only scratching the surface of this world of female choice and animal mating.
You're right. There's always more to learn.
There is.
And we have plenty more to discuss.
So let's take another break. And we'll be back soon to wrap up our deep dive into this surprising power of female choice.
Sounds good.
Welcome back, deep divers. It's time to kind of wrap up our exploration of animal mating and the power of female choice. It's been quite a journey, hasn't it?
It really has. From those beatboxing sage grouse to the cross-dressing bowerbirds. It's just amazing to see the lengths that males will go to attract a mate. And, it all comes back to this power of female choice shaping the evolution of these really elaborate displays and these behaviors.
And, we've talked about, sensory bias, indicators of good genes, even the benefits of, genetic diversity as possible explanations for these preferences.
Right.
But I still feel like
I agree.
There's this certain something that we're missing. What do you think?
Yeah, I think there's like this hidden layer of complexity to female choice that we're only just beginning to kind of understand.
Yeah.
What makes a female bowerbird choose a bower decorated with blue trinkets over, say, red or green ones?
And it makes me wonder, are we underestimating the cognitive abilities of animals? Could it be that, something like an aesthetic preference, a sense of beauty is playing a role?
It's a fascinating possibility. And, our understanding of animal cognition is constantly evolving.
Yeah.
And we're learning that animals are capable of, far more complex thought processes than we ever imagined.
So maybe those bowerbirds really do have a sense of style.
Maybe they do. And even if we can't fully grasp, the reasons behind their choices. The fact remains that female preferences are this incredibly powerful force in shaping the diversity of life on Earth.
And it's a good reminder that evolution isn't just about, survival of the fittest, as we so often hear. It's also about this power of attraction. The interplay between males and females.
Absolutely.
And how those interactions shape the traits that we see in nature.
Well said.
Yeah.
And as we kind of, delve deeper into this fascinating world, we're bound to uncover even more surprises, and really challenge our assumptions about the animal world.
This deep dive has really opened my eyes to the complexity of animal behavior.
Yeah.
And I feel like I have a whole new appreciation for the subtle yet powerful role that females play in shaping the course of evolution.
Me too. It's a really good reminder that even in the seemingly simplest of acts, like, a bird choosing a mate, there's this whole world of intricate biology, evolutionary pressures, and maybe even, a touch of artistry at play.
So before we wrap up, I'd love to leave our listeners with something to ponder.
Okay.
We spent this whole episode exploring, the power of female choice in the animal kingdom. But what about our own species? How has female choice shaped human evolution? What seemingly irrational preferences might we have that are actually rooted in our evolutionary past?
Those are great questions to think about. It really challenges us to kind of examine our own behaviors, our preferences through a new lens. Recognize that we, too, are products of this long and really intricate evolutionary dance.
So as you go about your day, dear listeners, take a moment to kind of observe the world around you.
Yeah.
From, the birds singing in the trees to the people that you interact with.
Right.
And see if you can spot the subtle ways that, evolution, including this often hidden hand of female choice, has shaped, the tapestry of life as we know it.
And maybe you'll start to see the world with a little more wonder.
Yeah.
And a deeper appreciation for these intricate connections that really bind us all together.
Well, thank you all for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of female choice. We'll see you next time.